Media Melanie Talks TV. I'm Melanie, and today I'm back to talk about Poker Face Season 2 on Peacock. Episode 7 is called One Last Job. This one was a lot of fun for a few different reasons. First and foremost, for me, our girl Charlie got some, and watching that human connection come together for her was 10 out of 10. She is always thrust in the middle of these investigations, tasked with solving the case of the week. And for her to finally go out on a very sweet date with this really nice guy, loved every single thing about that. I was also pretty torn up when Bill ended up getting killed and Charlie no longer has any love interest here, which of course will help propel her forward to her next case of the week. But something that really was done well here is the theme of this episode giving this sort of meta nod to the formula of Poker Face itself. It is very case of the week, very procedural, and it has an anthology feel, even though there is a little bit of a recurring thread throughout. And speaking of that recurring thread, actually, we didn't get the voice of Good Buddy, voiced by Steve Buscemi, once in this episode. But that's okay, because it did feel very standalone and like its own mini movie, which is great because the whole episode was a nod to movies as a whole, almost touching upon every single genre, so many common plot and character tropes. And most importantly, since there was a Santa in here, does it make it a Christmas episode? I'll get a little bit more into that later. And before I get more into the review of this episode of Poker Face, please be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm here dropping weekly videos until episode 12. And then coming later this month, The Buccaneers on Apple TV+. I will be here with videos at least once a week, if not 3 times a week. And then coming in July, Dexter Resurrection drops on Paramount Plus with Showtime July 11th. Definitely going to be here for that. I, of course, covered Original Sin here on my channel. And then later in July, the final season of The Summer I Turned Pretty on Prime Video. It is the summer of love triangles and then, of course, some serial killers and murder, and I am so here for all of it. So be sure to stick with me for more TV talk, but right now, let's dive more into this episode of Poker Face. And remember to stick around for my episode and guest star rankings at the end of this video. I've been updating them every week. This was very much a celebration of Cinephiles, and I think it actually subverts a lot of these common movie tropes as well, because it combines almost every single one into this episode. We get a combination of movie elements here, all in one short 43-minute episode. From the hero to the villain, a sort of body swap with the mannequin. Charlie is the chosen one here to solve this crime. Lots of comic relief, the rom-com vibes, and the leave behind trope that Charlie's boss tells her about at the restaurant. One character deceiving another. Returning to the scene of the crime, the rise and fall of Kendall. It really does combine all of these different movie elements into one, all the common character and plot tropes, and combining all the genres of movies themselves. And I think at its core, this one was giving very Heist. Obviously, the One Last Job is a nod to the script that Kendall wrote, but also at the heart of it all, the Bill and Charlie, the rom-com was my favorite part. But what gave a movie the most is maybe that ending scene. How cinematic did that feel? With the police coming in, the big dramatic lighting, a helicopter that's blowing all the money around, and then we have Charlie standing inside of the store as the camera pans out into this wide shot with all of the televisions playing a movie, some of them with bullet holes, and then having used those screens at the end as this sort of device for tricking Kendall, getting him arrested, and of course Charlie had called the police, she had the emergency button. Just overall, I think this was very well done. I did make a list of all of the movie references and visuals that we saw, and if I missed any, please drop them in the comments, but seriously, how many movie things can there be in one TV show? The answer is a lot. Starting with the Kill Bill of it all. The lead character's name here is Bill, and he got killed. Not only that, we had some sword content, which is very prevalent within the Kill Bill movie franchise. And we actually saw a Kill Bill poster at one point as well. Mission Impossible mentioned a number of different times, and also the whole scheme with the Polaroid in front of the cameras. We knew the cameras were actually looping, that's what Bill had told Charlie, but with the Polaroid situation, that was another nod to Mission Impossible 3, and also played into Charlie being able to really figure this case out. As I mentioned, we got a lot of rom-com vibes. The date within the Super Saver store was also reminding me of the Natalie Portman movie Where the Heart Is, where she's a pregnant teenager and she's actually living inside of a store. We've seen the living inside of a store thing, and also reminds me of the Tom Hanks movie where he's in a self-contained environment, an airport in that case. But a little bit of mannequin as well, because we did in fact have that Santa mannequin come into play. And the heist of it all, as I mentioned, the name of the script that started this entire episode was One Last Job, which is a love letter to all of the different heist movies that Bill and Kendall had watched over the years. And we learned that they became friends in 4th grade over a fight over Die Hard and whether or not it was a Christmas movie. And one of them said, in order to be a Christmas movie, there has to be a Santa Claus. And Bruce Willis in the Santa hat, not necessarily a Santa Claus, but the fact that this movie not only used the body swap with the mannequin situation, but put Bill's body in that mannequin Santa suit, does that make this a Christmas TV show? If we're going by what our characters are telling us, 100% this is a Christmas episode of television. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Black Doves. I covered that whole season 1 on Netflix. Fantastic show, by the way, coming back soon-ish for a season 2. That actually stars Keira Knightley, who we saw in a movie here on one of the screens as well, Pride and Prejudice. Did anybody pick up on the all right line as well, which is giving Matthew McConaughey? There was a mention of Weekend at Bernie's. We got some Psycho vibes in there as well. And then that part where the sour cream and onion canola oil is on the numbers of the safe, that's something I think we've seen in a lot of different TV shows or movies where they can sort of shine a light on and figure out what the safe combination is. And yes, it did work here as well. But if you look in the credits of the show, which by the way also feel very cinematic, the way that the credits were rolled in general with that score at the end. But here's a list of all of the movie content that we actually saw within this episode. Baby Driver, Heat, The Lady from Shanghai, Ambulance, Bridget Jones' Diary, Charlie Varick, Notting Hill, and previously mentioned Pride and Prejudice. They crammed so much movie content into one 43-episode minute of television. I can't get over how smart it is and how much it is leaning into the formula of this show, almost making fun of itself a little bit by combining all of these elements into one. But if you're really looking at it, the way they were able to pull this off, brilliant. As far as guest stars go in this episode, we had Sam Richardson, who we know from Veep and The After Party, Corey Hawkins from Straight Outta Compton, he played Bill, James Ransom, he was in It Chapter 2, and Geraldine Viswanathan, who played Charlie's boss at the delivery restaurant. Something I loved about her character is when she figured out that it was Bill's birthday and Charlie's kind of had asked Kendall for advice on what to get him. And then her boss makes this entire list, which I'm going to put up on the screen, about what she should get him and what type of vibe that gives off. Some of the items she had on this list were just so ludicrous, but so funny. I mean, anywhere from dead bird to hot sauce subscription to leaf blower and gun rack. Unbelievable. And we don't even see Charlie until 13 minutes into this 43-minute episode, which tracks with other in times that we've seen Charlie first within Poker Face Season 2. I think 19 so far has been the record, but those ones were for 1 hour long episodes, so it is relatively relative. They take about 15 to 20 minutes to establish the storyline before bringing in Charlie. And where the storylines intersect in this episode is it had opened with Kendall showing a customer in the store TVs. The guy was looking for a blender. So it circles back to the fact that Charlie is actually talking to Kendall, and then the guy comes up and asks him about the blender. So that is the end point for Charlie. Might I just add, the gift of the Guardian Bell was so thoughtful, and how much he loved it, acknowledged it was thoughtful, and the fact that Charlie knew he was telling the truth because of her special gift. I loved the connection between these two characters, and I am so bummed out that Charlie is not going to have a companion, but at the same time, it wouldn't necessarily work for her to have a companion anyway, because she goes from one location to the next. And it was interesting that we did not get any of the good buddy here. I suppose it would have been a little bit of a diversion here because this was very movie driven, and that part probably would have felt maybe a little bit disconnected. And it's been the only thread really woven through as a continuing storyline after the Whack-A-Mole episode. But it makes sense for this episode to really not have any of the serialization part of it. And even though it is only like the slightest little bit of serialization, the fact that they want to sort of brand this episode as a mini movie, and yes, all the episodes in essence are kind of a mini movie in themselves, but this one feels like a 43-minute film that combines almost every single cinematic element from crossing genres to tropes. Have we ever seen anything like this done before within 43 minutes? And yeah, it is absurd. But for any cinephiles out there, I think the appreciation for this is probably going to be pretty deep. And even though I mentioned all these different nods to movies, I'm sure I missed some. So again, if you cinephiles out there notice something that I didn't, maybe something a little bit more under the radar, I really want to know. So please, please, please do let me know that in the comments. And just getting back to the rom-com of it all, when they had this date in the store, the rotisserie chicken, the boxed wine, the fact that Charlie ends up coming back and sneaking in the tent to stay in the store to figure out that Kendall's going to come back and take the money out of the locker that he ended up taking from Juice. And of course, Juice ends up figuring that out. Cue the sword scene, which later ends up coming back where he pulls the sword out when he comes back to the store, which first of all, there is no way after getting stabbed with a sword like that, you're coming back to life, going all the way to a store in order to fight somebody and then pull it out and meet your demise. Completely unbelievable and suspending disbelief, but that's okay because that's what we do in movies a lot of the time anyway. Really though, what was most clever about the manner in which this crime was almost covered up but not quite, and like what an idiot Juice is to have just swapped the mannequin like that? And then for poor Charlie to come and figure out that it's Bill underneath the Santa suit. I also would have expected maybe a little bit more of an emotional reaction from Charlie, but at the same time, probably pretty traumatic. The first dude that you've kind of been with and got some from ends up dying, and then you have to solve his case. True testament to how much of a detective Charlie is and always solves the crime every single time. Interestingly, Kendall may have gotten away with all this if he didn't come back to get the money and just fled town. He got greedy, he undermined the plan with Juice and took that extra money. So he should have just fled and not come back. But because he did, they got into this confrontation, him and Charlie, and that ends up with him getting caught. And just big picture as well, this whole episode of the show was based on a movie script, which is a love letter to Heist. So yes, we get the heist, we get the action, we get the rom-com, we get some action, some mystery, lots of conflict. And one more time, I'm going to bring this up. Is this a Christmas TV show? If the rule is that a Santa Claus is required in order for it to be a Christmas show or movie, then yes, it obviously checks that box. But we didn't get any Christmas carols whatsoever. I mean, even Die Hard had Christmas music in it. It had Bruce Willis in the Christmas hat, not even a full-on Santa. So if Die Hard isn't considered a Christmas movie, then I don't know, is this considered a Christmas TV show? If Die Hard is considered a Christmas movie, and what do you guys think? Then this could be considered a Christmas TV show. The debate is on. Be sure to drop your thoughts on that in the comments. I love how they were able to capture the essence of movies and infuse it in here, because this did feel like a 43-minute movie. While there were some moments we definitely did have to suspend disbelief here, including the fact that Kendall was just going to let the guy walk out with all the TVs in the first place, and he's going to partner up with some guy, Juice, who he essentially just met over mojitos, probably not very likely. Is it likely that Bill was actually living in the Super Saver department store? Maybe, or it was just really a device to give a nod to movies where that sort of thing happens. And also just Kendall's reaction to when his friend Bill died. They've known each other since 4th grade. He gets shot in front of him, and yeah, he looks a little bit upset, obviously, and is concerned with hiding the body, but I guess I would have expected some sort of tears, maybe a more visceral reaction. I know if one of my friends from 4th grade was literally shot and killed right in front of me, I couldn't carry on. I couldn't think straight. There's no way that I could even continue to carry out this crime. The distractibility of it all, and yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money at stake here, so maybe it's a trade-off, but I don't think Kendall as a character really had this in his character DNA. He never would have pulled that trigger and was pretty shocked that Juice did in general. But did he not seem like that upset about it? I don't know, maybe it's just me. This episode was a lot of fun, which propels us into my episode rankings for Poker Face Season 2. I'm going to keep Hometown Hero in my number 1 slot. I loved the baseball of it all. Followed by number 2, The Game's Afoot. I can't seem to take Cynthia Erivo's episode much lower than number 2. Number 3, Last Looks. Still love that episode. Love the funeral content of it all. Number 4, Sloppy Joseph. What an unhinged episode with that demon in pigtails last week. And I thought the actor who played Stephanie was just fantastic. That puts One Last Job at number 5. And something I had talked about with Craig Elston when we did our episode 5 Hometown Hero recap is the fact that when ranking these episodes, really the top 3 to 5 are all so closely matched because they're so strong in such different ways that really lend themselves to the success of the format of the show in general. So even though I have One Last Job at number 5, I mean, could it be number 3? Probably. I'm not going to say they're all necessarily tied, but they are very close together. That puts Whack-A-Mole at number 6, The Taste of Human Blood at number 7. And as I've been saying, I think that one is probably going to stay at the bottom of the list throughout the season. It would take a lot to bump that one into not last place for me. All right, guest star rankings. I'm keeping kind of an honorable mention on the table for Steve Buscemi's Good Buddy, and I am hoping that we get to actually see him on our screens before the season is over. And there are 12 episodes, so we've still got plenty of time for that. But Cynthia Erivo. Pretty sure she's going to stay on the top of my list. The lady played 5 different roles and played them so well, and that episode was just a lot of fun. I'm keeping Katie Holmes at number 2. Loved her character Greta, followed by Giancarlo Esposito, who played her husband back on episode 2, Last Looks. Number 4 is the main character Stephanie from last week, played by Eva J. Halford. Loved her character. And Camille Nanjiani is at number 5. Even though I didn't love his episode with Gator Joe, I think he did a wonderful job actually playing that ridiculously absurd character. Simon Rex at number 6, Simon Helford at number 7, BJ Novak at number 8 from that acid-induced situation from episode 5. Carol Kane, also in Hometown Hero, she's my number 9, and Richard Kind and Rhea Perlman are basically tied at number 10 for me. So I would love if you would drop your episode rankings and your favorite guest stars down in the comments. Let me know where you're at here, just a little bit past halfway in the season. Next week's episode is called The Sleazy Georgian. Curious to see exactly how Charlie is going to get there. Will we hear more from our friend and Charlie's friend, Good Buddy? And what's coming next? Is Charlie going to be in mourning for a little while over losing this guy, Bill? And yeah, you know what? They only went on the one date, but it was a pretty great first date. And I don't think all women would necessarily be here for a date like this within a department store that's giving kind of Walmart vibes. But given that Charlie is not the typical person and the endearing nature in which Bill planned this thing and used all the elements within the store, I love how Charlie didn't judge him for having to be living there. There's a lot of women out there who'd be like, wait a minute, you're living in a department store? Hard pass. But seeing Charlie finally get some was maybe the cherry on top of this episode for me. I'll be back again next week for episode 8, and we've only got 5 more left this season, and you know I will be here every single week covering it. Be sure to like this video, hit that subscribe button, and stick with me for more TV talk. Got The Buccaneers, Dexter, The Summer I Turned Pretty coming up, and also on my radar is a Stephen King adaptation called The Institute, which is coming to MGM Plus possibly this summer. So give that one a Google. It stars Mary Louise Parker from Weeds, who I love. So stay tuned for more details on when I will be covering that one as well. I really appreciate you tuning in, and I'll be back again soon. Media Melanie, clicking off.